Most people don't realize how much their personal information is being bought and sold every day. Data brokers are making billions, pulling details about you from public records and the internet, and then packaging and selling it, usually without your consent. That's how your information lands in the hands of scammers, spammers, even stalkers. It's why you get endless robocalls and why ads seem to follow you everywhere. That's where Aura comes in. Aura actively removes your data from broker sites and keeps it off. They also instantly alert you if your information shows up in a breach or on the dark web. But Aura goes beyond data protection. With one app, you get a VPN, antivirus, password manager, spam call protection, dark web monitoring, and even up to $5 million in identity theft insurance, all backed by 24/7 US-based fraud support. Other companies might sell just credit monitoring or just a VPN. Aura gives you all of it, together, at the same price competitors charge for just one service. Start your free trial today at aura.com/remove. Protect yourself now at aura.com/remove.
Hey guys! Welcome to a special episode of Stars of the Golden Age, another of our hot off the press editions. If you haven't heard one of these style episodes before, I share with you snippets from my collection of vintage movie magazines. It's really fun. Anything from celebrity gossip, to celebrity interviews, to inside stars' homes, to hilarious vintage magazine ads. The one thing they all have in common is that they are old and they are authentic. All of the content in our hot off the press episodes comes from the 1920s through the 1960s. They are fun, and they give me a little more time to focus on my research of our star biographies, especially in these busy summer months when life just never seems to slow down enough to get anything done. I will tell you, though, that I am deep into my research for a really heavy hitter that you can expect on our next episode, Sir Laurence Olivier. I cannot rush that one. So as I do that, for today's Hot Off the Press episode, I have an extra special treat for you. Did you know that Bette Davis was given her own advice column during World War II? She seems like the perfect person for the job, don't you think? Well, she was, and she loved giving her raw, unfiltered, and very progressive advice to the fans who sought out her help. And I'm going to share some of that advice with you today, straight out of the pages of the July 1943 issue of Photoplay Magazine, which graced the beautiful Judy Garland on its cover. But wait, there's more. I will also let you know what was going on in the Hollywood social scene, according to Cal York's gossip column. And I will read you Matilda Trotter's Hollywood horoscope. So, settle in and get ready to hear all you need to know about July 1943 Hollywood. First, I can't wait any longer. We have to see what life advice Bette Davis was dishing out to her readers. I present to you, What Should I Do? Your Problems Answered by Bette Davis, from the July 1943 issue of Photoplay Magazine. Dear Miss Davis, my boyfriend is 23, and I've been going with him for the past year. We became engaged after we had known each other for 8 months. I inquired, after we were engaged, why he was in Class 4F. He told me of a scrape he was in when he was just 17. He stole a car. Previous to that time I met him, he had been in the Army for 5 months, but was discharged because he had lied about his felony on his record. Now, well over a year after Pearl Harbor, he still hasn't been drafted. It began to seem odd to me because another boy in our town, who had a record, was drafted. Because of my insistence that George find out about his status, he told me of a second felony. Here is my question. Even if I love him, which I really do, can I accept the situation as it is and marry him? He says that he loves me so much that if anything should happen between us, he just wouldn't be responsible for what would happen. I've rather wanted to join the WAAC ever since they organized, and I think that might be a way out for me. After all, a woman wants to be proud of her future husband. Please, Miss Davis, since I love him so desperately, should I marry him and face this? Or should I join up and work out my heartache for my country? Jean C. Dear Miss C., it seems impossible to me, judging from your letter, that you could be really proud of this boy. Of course, what your problem boils down to is this. Which is more important to you, what a boy has been or has done in the past, or what he is going to be in the future? You have known him long enough to tell whether he has overcome the things in his character that caused his collision with the law in the first place. If he hasn't, I certainly would advise you against marrying him to try to reform him. It never works. As I have said before in some of my answers, this is a problem so individual and containing so many details of which I know nothing, that it must be decided by you alone. Sincerely, Bette Davis. Dear Miss Davis, I know you are very busy, so I'll get right to the point. I am not ugly, and I am not beautiful. I guess I'm just in between. But I have one great disadvantage. Here is the lowdown. When I was 6 years old, I was hit by an automobile. Now I have a scar in the middle of my forehead which extends down near my eyes. I've been in many plays and sung on many programs in school. I am now 14, and every time I appear, I want more and more to be a singer. But my friends laugh at me. I cry myself to sleep almost every night. Do you think I should give up on my hopes because of my problem? Josette G. Dear Miss G., it is a little difficult for me to give you an honest opinion, as I have no way of knowing, from your letter, just how noticeable your scar is. In case it is extremely noticeable, it seems to me that you should consider plastic surgery when you are older. Remarkable things are being done in this field. However, at present, I believe you could make your life pleasanter if you would consistently use one of the heavier powder bases now on the market. The cosmetic buyer in any store in your town will be able to recommend one of these. If your scar is not a bad one, it wouldn't prohibit a career for you, as makeup covers a multitude of sins. Yours sincerely, Bette Davis. Dear Miss Davis, I have been married for 2 years. My husband is a farmer, but I had always lived in the city until I was married. All this time I have lived on the farm and tried my best to make my husband happy. But now it has come to a place where I can't possibly stand it any longer, as we live with his father and I cannot get along with him at all. I have begged my husband, and yes, even threatened to leave him, if he wouldn't move off the farm and try to get himself a defense job, as I hear there are plenty. And well paid. He says that his place is on the farm, and he will never leave it, as his sisters and his father depend on him. There was a mutual understanding at the time of our marriage that we would live anywhere I choose. My opinion is that he is afraid of being drafted if he leaves the farm. Would you leave him and get a divorce if you had a good home to return to, as I have, or would you stay with him on the farm and continue making unheard of sacrifices? I don't believe we will ever get ahead, as his dad controls all of the money. Emily Ann B. Dear Mrs. B., evidently you no longer love your husband, because when one is in love, one wants to be with that person all the time, regardless of where he is. No woman, if a man loves a particular occupation, has the right to demand that he give it up because of her. Even if he promised to live in a city when he asked you to marry him, he probably now realizes this would not be right for him. I'm sure he thought you would grow to love the home that he has made for you. None of us who has just finished signing up for food ration books can look upon a good, sincere, hardworking farmer with anything but the highest respect and admiration. Sincerely, Bette Davis. Take that, Mrs. B. Do you think she left the farm? I wish we knew. Dear Miss Davis, In reading your column, I've noticed that quite a few girls complain about their appearance and ask you to give them advice on how to become more attractive. Sometimes I don't think average-looking girls realize how lucky they are. I recently secured a position with a coal company as a weighmistress in the office. I have worked a long time and studied to equip myself for this job. I have 12 men working for me, but unless I can find an answer to my puzzle, I may have to give it up. You see, everyone tells me I am exceptionally good-looking. I have never considered this important as I've always wanted to improve my mind. But to get to my difficulty, the first few weeks of my new job were very pleasant. The men were cooperative and courteous. Then, in the next few weeks, they began to hang around the office and carry on silly chatter. I couldn't get my work out because the men were just too friendly. In desperation, I went to my employer and told him of the situation. He laughed and said he couldn't fire 12 men, that he would just have to lose me if the men wouldn't stay out of the office. I have worked so hard to get this position, and I like it so well that I can't bear to give it up. But what can I do without being mean and making enemies? Helena S. Dear Miss S., under no condition give up a position that you have worked for, earned honestly, and like. Part of your difficulty is caused, no doubt, by the celebrated habit of girls who say no and really mean yes. Your very indifference and concentration on your work are probably interpreted as part of some enticing new technique. In your favor is the fact that the men are apt to become discouraged if they find a girl isn't interested. It isn't necessary for you to be unpleasant or for you to make enemies to accomplish this. Simply be tactful and firm. Ask them calmly to stay out of the office because you have work to do. If you are nice about it, and if your tone and attitude are absolutely impersonal, I feel sure these men will, in the long run, believe you and respect you for your attitude. Sincerely yours, Bette Davis. Dear Miss Davis, I have read somewhere that you are the head of the USO, and I wondered if you were the person who made the rule that girls under 18 can't enter USO centers. I am 17, and my boyfriend is stationed near the town where I live. Really, there aren't many places around here where decent people can go and have a nice time. The USO workers are always giving parties for soldiers and inviting a lot of girls. But we girls 16 and 17 get turned down at the door. We are embarrassed to death. My boyfriend has to take an older girl to these parties, and I am left out. Can't something be done about it? It seems like a silly rule. What difference does a year make? Won't you please look into it and try to get the rule repealed? Grace B. Dear Miss B., I am extremely flattered to learn that you think I am the head of the USO. I am hardly equipped for this job, which is a colossal one. These rules are made and enforced by the USO chairman in each community, I understand. So the only thing for you to do is to take it up with your local USO. Sincerely, Bette Davis. Dear Miss Davis, I am a bride of 6 months and have a very dear husband. We love each other deeply. He has had a very difficult life and he has worked since he was 14. Now, he has a rather important job and we get along very nicely on his salary. After 2 months of marriage, he brought up the subject of a wife's being independent. He wants me to go to school and learn to be something. He says that he has seen so many changes concerning work that he feels a woman should be able to share in supporting a home if need be. I love being a housewife, and I know I would be very unhappy if I had to go to work. I like to cook and clean and have my home attractive. How can a woman keep up with household duties when she has to go to the office? I told him a girl marries to have someone to depend on. Do you believe a woman has to learn to be self-supporting? Patricia J. Dear Mrs. J., I happen to agree with your husband. I think that every human being should be self-supporting. Who knows what the future may bring, or of what great value trained women may be in the post-war world. Sincerely, Bette Davis. Dear Miss Betty, I met a man who is 52 and was a doctor in Vienna. He has 2 lovely boys, 10 and 12 years, Sasha and Joe. The doctor was in a concentration camp and very much broken up. His wife died in France. He is here only 2 years and just made his state exam as doctor. If he passed, he'll find a home for the boys who are in a boarding school now. I suggested in the summer, when I was a camp nurse and he was camp doctor, that he should marry a rich woman and I would be governess to the boys and help in the office. Well, now it seems we like each other and the boys adore me. But this worries me. Is there a late luck for a woman when she is an old maid nearing 50? Is there any happiness for me? Or am I maybe a silly old fool to fall in love with him and him with me? Dora W. Dear Miss W., there is certainly no reason why, even though you are nearing 50, you should consider yourself an old maid. It is entirely possible for people of all ages to fall in love and marry. You must have heard the saying that a person is only as old as he feels. There is a Swiss legend that tells how the crocus, a symbol of awakening rituality, always blooms twice, once in spring and once in the fall. Certainly, there is nothing in the least ridiculous in a mature love. Sincerely yours, Bette Davis. Dear Miss Davis, I may never mail this letter, but I am being driven to write to you by an urge that I cannot understand. Probably I have a great many peculiar urges, to judge from what I am going to tell you. For several years since my parents' death, I have lived alone in a small house. I was given every advantage of a Christian training as a child. I have a good education, too. Something that, in the getting, caused my parents to sacrifice many personal comforts. After I recovered from my first horrible grief at my parents' death, I picked myself up and went back to my teaching position. One of my pupils was a beautiful brown-eyed boy of 10, bright, laughing, and friendly. But he had one very serious fault. He had no sense of property rights at all. If any of the children missed an article, I always knew where to find it. When I scolded him, he would look up at me in astonishment and say, "But I wanted it. I thought it was pretty." Now, this is the crazy thing that happened to me. I don't know what Tommy and his failing had to do with it, but something. I was in a dime store one day, and I saw a bright red hair ribbon bow. I simply picked it up and walked out. That was only the beginning. In spite of myself, I began to pick up all sorts of odd and useless things. This has been going on for 2 years. When I look in the drawers of Mother's dresser, I shudder to realize what I am doing. But that isn't the end of my woes by a long margin. I was caught out in a sudden rain last summer, and 2 radio officers brought me home. One of them came back a day or so later to return a school notebook I had left in the back of the car, and we became friends. Now that friendship has become love, pure and simple, and he wants me to marry him. I guess I don't need to go on. If you're laughing, I don't blame you. I laugh rather wryly myself sometimes. Well, Miss Davis, where do we go from here? What shall I do? Tell him the truth and lose him? Or marry him and disgrace him by being caught eventually and branded? Well, I can't write the word. It is too awful. Gareth M. Dear Miss M., in the first place, your condition is nothing of your own choosing. We have learned that these things are not disgraceful any more than whooping cough is, because they too can be cured. Of course, you must tell this man the full truth about your trouble. If he is the right kind of person, he will be able to help you. If he isn't the right kind of person, you might as well know it before you marry him instead of afterward. I would also suggest that you go and talk this over with a psychiatrist. Don't try to solve your problem alone. And, above all, Don't think that you are a disgrace to anyone. You aren't. Sincerely yours, Bette Davis. There you go. If you have recently found yourself in any similar predicaments, Bette Davis has you covered. Now, let's stop in and read a magazine ad from July of 1943 before moving along to our next segment. This ad is for Packers Pine Tar Shampoo. The ad is topped by a photo of a good-looking young man and woman. The woman is blonde and beautiful with a Veronica Lake-inspired hairstyle. The man is wearing a Navy uniform, standing behind the beautiful and happy woman. But he is not happy. The look on his face as he looks down on her beautiful blonde locks is that of disgust, worry, and disappointment. Why? Because she stinks. Under the photo reads the headline, "Are you careful about scalp odor?" And scalp odor is written in a kind of horror movie font. The ad goes on to read, "There's an easy way to be sure that your hair can stand a nasal close-up. Use Packers Pine Tar Shampoo regularly. This scientific shampoo, which contains pure medicinal pine tar, not only cleanses the hair and scalp thoroughly, but also leaves the hair fresh and fragrant. The delicate pine scent does its work, then disappears. Don't take the chance that some women do. Make certain of your personal daintiness. Packers Pine Tar Shampoo will keep your hair naturally fresh and pleasant. Start the Packers habit, and you won't have to worry about a nasal close-up." And now, a modern-day ad break. And when we come back after this short ad break, it is celebrity gossip time.
Most people don't realize how much their personal information is being bought and sold every day. Data brokers are making billions, pulling details about you from public records and the internet, and then packaging and selling it, usually without your consent. That's how your information lands in the hands of scammers, spammers, even stalkers. It's why you get endless robocalls and why ads seem to follow you everywhere. That's where Aura comes in. Aura actively removes your data from broker sites and keeps it off. They also instantly alert you if your information shows up in a breach or on the dark web. But Aura goes beyond data protection. With one app, you get a VPN, antivirus, password manager, spam call protection, dark web monitoring, and even up to $5 million in identity theft insurance, all backed by 24/7 US-based fraud support. Other companies might sell just credit monitoring or just a VPN. Aura gives you all of it, together, at the same price competitors charge for just one service. Start your free trial today at aura.com/remove. Protect yourself now at aura.com/remove.
Welcome back. Now onto Cal York's gossip. And there was a lot of it in this July 1943 issue of Photoplay Magazine. It's true, LOVE. When Lana Turner discovered her marriage to Steve Crane was illegal, due to the fact his divorce from Carol Kurtz was not final, she had her marriage annulled, even though she was to become a mother. Well, said Hollywood, that's that. Lana was probably glad to get out of it all. But they reckoned without love. After several attempts at a reconciliation, Steve and Lana finally slipped across the border to Mexico, and, without telling a soul, were remarried under their own names of Joe Crane and Julia Turner. "I loved him," was Lana's simple but drama-packed explanation. "We can't live apart, and that's that. In spite of unhappy things beyond our control that have followed us, we have always been so congenial together, and so happy. Steve is now in the Army, and I wanted him to go knowing I will be waiting for him when he comes back." In order to save gas, Bing Crosby moved to a Hollywood apartment while completing his movie, Dixie. One morning, Bing was hoofing along Melrose Avenue toward the studio when a soldier drove up in a flivver. "Want a ride, buddy?" he called to Bing, who was panting with exertion. "Sure do," Bing said, and hopped in. After a few minutes, the soldier asked Bing what he did out in Hollywood. "I stand in for Bing Crosby," said the groaner, deadpan. That's so. Say, you do look something like Bing at that. Well, I sure wish you luck. At the studio corner, just before his friend drove off, Bing had the notion to give him the surprise of his life. So there on the corner, at 8 in the morning, Bing started to warble. The soldier looked at him. Pretty good, kid, but you better stick to your stand-in job and let Crosby do the singing. Brother, you ain't so good. The old truck got its face lifted with a brand new coat of green paint trimmed in white, preparatory to its opening. The nightclubs, oddly enough, are crowded these nights, but not with movie people, who are in a noticeable minority. But what Swains, except George Raft, are left to attend nightclubs? The town greeted both Lieutenant Commander Robert Montgomery and Lieutenant Commander Jean Markey, back from a year in the Guadalcanal Zonk, and both looking it. George Montgomery's gracious gesture in calling on every member of his studio publicity department, from mailboy to unit workers, to say goodbye the day he left for the Army, drew a lot of favorable comment. Georgie even gave old Cal's phone a jingle to say farewell. Nice boy, George. Best girl Dinah Shore gave him a young calf as a going-away present, and George shipped it up to his dad's ranch in Montana. The shortage of houses and apartments is haunting those stars who want to close up their out-of-the-A book area homes and can't. One little starlet, whose dog stood in the way of her subletting her apartment, solved the problem by having an enormous dog collar made upon which was engraved, "To Buster, from Greta Garbo, with all my love." She had her choice of 3 apartments the very next day. The collar did the trick. The public, who are growing so impatient with the endless trail of war pictures, should know how the studios are stuck with even more of them because, it is said, our government wants them. And, wonders Hollywood, could there be a softening up of Nazi characters on the screen due to the fact they expect beaten Nazi land to proffer early peace measures, and that we shouldn't be so mad as we once were? Some people are crazy enough to think so. The whipping post law was passed in California to take care of husbands or fathers who beat their wives or children. But oddly enough, the worst whipping post punishment of the month was inflicted by certain film stars upon their own fellow actors. Hollywood has never seen or heard anything like it. The Actors Guild meeting was crowded with practically every performer in town when President James Cagney took the stand and explained the meeting had been called to chasten the members among them who had failed to respond to the Victory Committee's pleas to entertain our boys. Fur, mostly mink, flew in every direction. Then Kay Kaiser took the platform. "You," he stormed, pointing to several big-name glamour girls, "with your mink coats and fine cars. Who bought those for you but the very boys out there who are dying for some kind of entertainment? You," he pointed again, "who refused to go on camp tours because you didn't like your spot on the bill. And you, who sulked and stayed home because you couldn't take your own hairdresser. And you, who gave us the excuse the fact you didn't like the publicity man who was going." All about were the wide smiles of those loyal hundreds who had given and given and given of their time. Joan Blundell, Rita Hayworth, Linda Darnell, Ann Miller, Red Skelton, Bob Hope, Frances Langford, Martha Ray, Carol Landis, Kay Francis, Lynn Barry, Betty Grable, George Raft, Grace McDonald, Smiley Burnett, Roy Rogers, Dorothy Lamour, Walter Pidgeon, James Falkenberg, Juanita Stark, Faye McKenzie, Billy Gilbert, and so many, many others. "Now see here," protested one well-known character actor whose participation in a certain serial has kept him going. "I'm tired of having members of my profession abused. I'm on the side of the actor. What could I do to entertain anyone? I can't sing, I can't dance." "Hey, Mr. Blank," interrupted comedian Phil Silvers. You don't have to. Right here in my pocket is a sketch that would knock the fellows cold. The silence was more embarrassing than golden. Carol Landis mounted the platform. It isn't necessary, as so many of you seem to think, to sing or dance or act or perform. Just letting the boys see you, being among them and having them know you care enough to be there, is pleasure enough for them. And then Carol told how our boys in Africa begged her to just stand on the platform to let them look at her. An American girl who had come all that way just to be with them. It isn't an easy thing, Bob Hope explained, to tour the camps, especially if you're a fellow. I know how it is. On our Alaskan tour, the day after I came to near death up there, that I don't want to think about, some boy from our audience heckled. Yeah, you'd be funnier, fellow, if you were in a uniform. It hurt. And what's more, you can't explain about age or family or why you're not in. Mostly because the government says no. You just gotta take it. But that's only one fellow among thousands who will never forget what you've tried to do. So please, please, friends, forget self and pride and inconvenience and get out there and do your stuff. Another star who won an Academy Award was flayed because her studio sent her to the canteen for publicity pictures, and the minute the pictures were shot, the actress walked out cold. Hollywood won't put up with these things, and no one can be harder on its own than just Hollywood. For example, after the meeting, Gary Cooper and Spencer Tracy joshed with President Cagney. Hey, you're supposed to be our best friend, they said, and this meeting was supposed to be called for our benefit. Cagney looked at them. Maybe it was, he said quietly. So perhaps the shirkers will take up their duties. If not, just sit back and relax, friends, for Hollywood will take care of its own, as only it can. With her hair piled atop her head in an exact replica of Betty Grable's coiffure and looking as much like her as possible, Virginia Maples has been stepping out practically every night with George Raft since his quarrel with Betty. But when Betty was rushed to a local hospital for an operation due to too much strenuous dancing, it took 3 nurses and 2 interns to carry in the flowers George sent. However, that same night, looking a little grim and set around the mouth, George was dancing as usual with Miss Maples. Few people know of Betty's experience. It seems the operation took much longer than the doctors expected, and the effect of the spinal anesthetic wore off while Betty was still on the table. The surgeon could not stop for another injection, and the operation had to be finished under those painful conditions. One night recently, Virginia Payne, who really loved George and who, according to her friends, was so unhappy after their breakup, met her former suitor at the Macombo. Result? He asked for a dance, and Virginia, now Mrs. Quentin Reynolds, said yes. And so reclosed an already closed chapter. The funniest aftermath of the whole Raft Grable business followed a story written by Luella Parsons, in which she quoted Betty as saying she felt a romance with a married man, who had no divorce in sight, was a futile and hopeless thing, and while she loved George, she was, nevertheless, giving him up. Next day, a well-known foreign star telephoned Miss Parsons and told how greatly impressed she was with the story. I gave my boyfriend the air too after I read your story, she said. I'm like Betty. I feel it's so useless. And so another 3-way romance bit the dust. But the payoff is, George knows where Betty's heart really belongs. With Harry James, so we're told. And that's what hurts so deeply. Oh well, this love is a great thing. Nothing like it for a first-class heartache all the way around. For some reason, RKO, the coziest studio of them all with the grandest publicity personnel, has the toughest luck in its star roster. Ginger Rogers, Jean Arthur, Katharine Hepburn, George Sanders, Charles Laughton, and Fred Astaire are amongst the hardest to handle and most unsympathetic to the press stars in all of Hollywood. Yet this little studio at one time or another has drawn them all. No wonder they cheer up and down the studio streets when Cary Grant comes to the studio to fulfill his commitments. If ever there was a grand guy, it's that Grant. It was nice of MGM to hold up the picture, a guy named Joe, for Van Johnson's recovery from the automobile accident that almost cost him his life. It may have had a lot to do with his miraculous comeback. The woman star, who is beginning to look so old on the screen, and really isn't, should pay more attention to her diet, liquid and otherwise. We went down to the Russia set to say goodbye to our old friend Bob Taylor, who is awaiting his call to the Navy Air Force. We picked up 2 books Bob had been reading, Practical Air Navigation and a book on physics. Marks and notation showed how well the books had been studied between scenes. I may never come back to pictures, Bob said very matter-of-factly. I like flying and I may just stay in it. It isn't that I don't like pictures, but I've got everything out of this business but good pictures. I've made friends, money, and had fun. If I do come back, it will be under a different understanding about what kind of pictures I do. He has no vanity. We were impressed with this fact again as Bob popped out of his dressing room, where we sat, to do scene after scene without one glance in the mirror. In fact, the regularness of the fellow came over us again in a flood of memory, and remembering some of the bad deals he had undeservedly received. We suddenly got mad. We asked him just what pictures he considered his best. He mentioned The Magnificent Obsession and Waterloo Bridge. To our questions of what he considered the highlights of his career since he invaded Hollywood, a kid right out of Pomona College, he answered, going to New York and Europe for the first time. Also, the first time the studio tore up my contract and gave me a new one. And what about playing with Garbo and Camille? No, I never wanted to play in that movie. That stuff is not for me. One of the worst disappointments of my career, Bob said, was in never having a chance to play with Spencer Tracy or Clark Gable on the screen. I'd have given my eye teeth to play with those fellows. Also, all that pretty boy publicity was hard to take. Hard to take, we thought, but boy, how he took it like a man. Now he'll be off to war, his heart and mind seriously set on the job he has to do in the branch of service he has chosen. Every night, into the small hours, his light burns as he pores over his books on navigation. There's no taking it lightly for Bob, and he'll do his job uncomplainingly, as he's done every job in the past. A true American, a fine lad, a good scout. When the Bob Hopes decided to adopt a brother for their little Linda, Bob and Mrs. Hope looked over several babies. Coming upon a little fellow, Bob stopped, stared, and lifted him up. "Look at that profile," he grinned. "A nose like mine. This one's for me." And so little Tony, now 3.5, and Linda, 4.5, have become Daddy's test audience. Thinking up gigs that will win their approval is my greatest job as a father, Bob told us. They're so darn particular. Getting one little laugh from those two is all the reward I ever want. Don Ameche and Bing Crosby, both fathers of 4 boys, meet occasionally in the halls of the NBC studio and talk things over. "I tell you, Don," Bing says, "separately they're good kids. Together..." And the stars shake their heads in unison. If ever Dominic Amici, Don's father, and Mr. Crosby, Bing's dad, met in the halls, there would be stories exchanged that would curl the hair of Bing and Don, a mutual friend said. Like father, like all 8 sons, those 2 boys should talk. And finally, Matilda Trotter's Hollywood horoscope. And in July of 1943, she had some predictions about Judy Garland and Olivia de Havilland to share with the world. Here is what she wrote. For the month of July, the stars say the greatest excitement in Hollywood will revolve around Judy Garland and Olivia de Havilland. However, in reading the following predictions, please take into consideration the fact that in order to make an accurate prediction for a given month, your astrologer must have the year, month, place, and moment of birth of the person for whom the prediction is made. Therefore, if these forecasts do not come to pass precisely as they are written, it is because full and exact information concerning the person's birth has not been available. Judy, Garland. It looks as though Judy will literally see stars in July, according to the aspects in her chart. Transit Saturn in opposition to the fiery Mars on the cusp of her house of marriage and the public, and to Uranus, which precipitates unexpected events in her midheaven, can bring a swift change in her marital status and in her relation to the public. Transit Mercury conjuncting her natal Mercury and insidious Neptune and Venus can start publicity rolling off the presses with stories concerning Judy's love life. While the transiting Neptune in her house of home, unfriendly to the moon in her house of marriage and the public, threatens her with financial loss through underhanded influences and with worry or anxiety over a loved one. In Hollywood Beware in 1942, I wrote, Judy may suffer loss through the opposite sex. The stars indicate that this influence, begun in 1942, reaches a climax in July 1943. Judy is a sincere and lovely person, idealistic and loyal to the point of sacrificing everything for those she loves. Be sure they are worthy, Judy. Well, we now know what Judy's fate held in 1943, and it did bring the end of her first marriage, the loss of her first child at the insistence of her mother and husband, and the start of her affair with Tyrone Power. She indeed suffered a lot of loss through the opposite sex, most tragically, her unborn child. Olivia de Havilland. Livy was born with a retrograde Venus governing her love life. This accounts for the many disappointments Olivia has had. In her house of self and personality, Olivia has 5 planets. This indicates fame and success, which Olivia has had. However, in Olivia's chart, Saturn, the planet of obstruction and delay, stands between Venus, her love life, and the moon, women in her life and the public. Hence, the many obstacles which crop up in her romantic affairs, and the loss of her Academy Award, which she so richly deserved, to her sister, Joan Fontaine. July may bring Olivia sudden acclaim or sudden publicity for her share of a collaboration on a play, movie script, or book. This could be the work of Olivia and John Huston, though I do not have John's birth date. Marriage for Olivia. Owing to the restraining influence of Saturn in transit through her 12th house of secret matters during July and for the balance of 1943, Olivia must exercise patience in her emotional life. Rebellion will only act as a boomerang. Patience, Olivia. It will pay dividends in the long run. As for Olivia de Havilland, this is what we know about her life at the time of this reading. John Huston was actually the man she had always wished had become her husband. But it wasn't until 1946 that Olivia became a wife, and that was to author Marcus Goodrich. So she did indeed have to exercise some patience. And it was just 1 month after the release of this publication that Olivia de Havilland filed her unprecedented lawsuit against her studio, Warner Brothers, over their attempt to force her into overworking her contracted 7-year period. This signaled the creation of the de Havilland Law and set forth the beginning of the end of the Hollywood studio system. And there you have it. Everything you need to know from July 1943 Hollywood. Thank you so much for joining me today and for your patience as I sneak these fun and easy episodes into your ears this summer. Summers are hard, this summer especially. Lots has been going on, mostly due to wildfires, which we are still dealing with. Plus, my social calendar is overflowing, as it seems to do in the summer. But life is short, and I am trying my best to embrace the moments before they pass by. And I encourage you all to do the same. Before we go, I do want to read a quick review of the week. And if you want to hear your review read on the show, please leave one, positive preferred. This 5-star review on Apple Podcasts is from Czar1900. And it reads, "The best. Outstanding podcast. Very fun. I think Erin is very good at this. I look forward to many more." Thank you so much. I look forward to many more as well. And it's thanks to people like you that I'm able to do it. Thank you very much. If you want more content, there is some really fun stuff available over on Patreon, and it can be all yours for a very small monthly fee. Lots of great bonus content. Patreon.com/Stars of the Golden Age podcast. And in doing so, you are supporting this little tiny independent podcast. It's a one-woman show over here. No big fancy production team. Please consider. Don't forget, reach for the positive in every day, be kind to everyone you encounter, and have a great rest of your week. For this episode, I used the July 1943 issue of Photoplay Magazine.
If the world were like a Sleep Number mattress, everything would adapt for your comfort. Your coffee would never get cold. Your flight would always be on time. And your mattress would always respond to you and your unique sleep needs. Sleep Number mattresses are designed to respond to your body and shift with your changing life, helping you fall asleep faster and stay asleep longer. To experience a whole new world of comfort, visit a Sleep Number store or go to sleepnumber.com. Sleep Number. To a good life sleep.
Most people don't realize how much their personal information is being bought and sold every day. Data brokers are making billions, pulling details about you from public records and the internet, and then packaging and selling it, usually without your consent. That's how your information lands in the hands of scammers, spammers, even stalkers. It's why you get endless robocalls and why ads seem to follow you everywhere. That's where Aura comes in. Aura actively removes your data from broker sites and keeps it off. They also instantly alert you if your information shows up in a breach or on the dark web. But Aura goes beyond data protection. With one app, you get a VPN, antivirus, password manager, spam call protection, dark web monitoring, and even up to $5 million in identity theft insurance, all backed by 24/7 US-based fraud support. Other companies might sell just credit monitoring or just a VPN. Aura gives you all of it, together, at the same price competitors charge for just one service. Start your free trial today at aura.com/remove. Protect yourself now at aura.com/remove.